After the Confederate defeat at Petersburg, things were not looking good for the Army of Northern Virginia. And in Richmond, most of the factories and industry would be burned so the Union could use it. Well, one of those buildings survived, and today we're checking out the Tredegar Iron Works building. And this is it. So this is the Tredegar Iron Works building, and it was responsible for making over 1,100 pieces of artillery for the Confederates. It was the largest manufacturer for the South and pretty much was the only factory capable of producing artillery pieces. Now, a man by the name of Rhys Davis would build this facility in 1937. He would name it Tredegar after a small town in Wales. Now here's an example of one of the many artillery pieces that would be manufactured here. I'm not sure if this exact piece was built here, but this piece here was primarily used for static positions, which is primarily defensive positions or mounted on naval boats. But this gun here would be too big to be carried along with the infantry. But you can just see the size of this thing and the size shell that it would fire. Pretty neat. Now this is just super cool to see. And you're going to get a preview of the next episode. This is the American Civil War Museum in Richmond, which we're also going to check out. So the Tredegar Iron Works is connected to it. Now, just so you have an idea of what we're looking at, this building here would be called the Pattern Building, and the building to the left is the Carpenter Shop. Now, unfortunately, because of COVID, the visitor center is not open, but this here is the main foundry where they would produce 1,100 artillery pieces for the Confederates. And this building, right next to the American Civil War Museum, is where the administration of the facility would be. Pretty cool. So now we're inside the American Civil War Museum, and we're just going to check out the central foundry here in the main lobby. And this is pretty cool. I wanted to point this out, but this facility manufactured products in every American conflict, from the Mexican-American War through the Korean War. How cool is that? And in 1972, as you can see, Hurricane Agnes would strike and destroy much of the remaining building here. But still really cool to see this brick. Now we're behind the Iron Works building, and this is the back side of it. Something that's interesting is it did survive the evacuation of Richmond. Many of the buildings in the factory and warehouse district were burned, so the Union couldn't seize them. But this one survived. And here's just more remnants of the factory here. Look like structural members. This is pretty cool. And again, here's some more over here, along with a separate building. Now, if you're visiting here, it is right next to the American Civil War Museum, which you're going to see in our next episode. So, pretty well done. Now here's a few more pieces of the factory. Again, not really sure what purpose some of these things would serve, but pretty cool to see nonetheless. It looks like an artillery piece that's covered up. And here's another building here. And there's the American Civil War Museum. And here's the main portion of the factory that has survived. Now, in April of 1565, obviously production would cease here. But by the end of 1865, the mill would be up and operating normally again. Now, this would become a very large mill again. And by 1873, over 1,200 people would be employed here. Now, what was called the Great Depression of that time in 1873, the mill would eventually close down due to the financial crisis. Now, the mill would also struggle with steel becoming more prevalent, but they've done a really awesome job of preserving some of the things that were actually here in the factory. And this is super cool. Here's some of the remnants of the machinery that would have been here. These are massive. Not really sure exactly what these did. Very cool. And here's some more machinery here. This place is pretty big. 4 stories. You can see how big the facility needed to be